Have you ever tried learning to ride a bike on your own? Or perhaps you went on your first solo trip without any guidance? If so, you've used a learning mechanism similar to how AI learns. Today, we'll explore reinforcement learning (RL) and understand how it works. Before diving into the main content, let's go through two simple real-life examples. First, let's go into example 1. Next to my house, there's a family with a third-grade boy. At the end of the school year, he was awarded a brand new bicycle for his excellent grades. However, since he was still young, his parents decided not to teach him how to ride it and stored the bike away. One day, his parents left for a week-long trip, leaving him at home with his older brother. Seeing the bike, the older brother proposed a challenge. "You have 2 days to learn how to ride this bike. If you succeed, I'll buy you a toy. If you fail, you'll have to wash the dishes for a week." Excited about the toy, the boy agreed. But there was a problem: he had never ridden a bike before. What should he do? Day 1, he sat at the gate, carefully watching others ride their bikes. Then, he took out his bike and gave it a try. Of course, he fell hard. Scraped knees, tears, frustration. But after some rest, he tried again. This time, he fell again, but not as badly. Day 2, he started to realize that balance was the key. At first, he could only move a few meters. Then, a bit farther. And by the end of the second day, he had learned how to ride. The interesting thing here is, no one explicitly taught him each step. He learned by trial, error, feedback, and improvement. Over time, he figured out how to balance, steer, control speed, and finally master bike riding. In reinforcement learning terms, the boy is an agent who learns by interacting with the environment, receiving feedback, and adjusting his actions to optimize performance. Next, let's move on to example 2. Imagine you love traveling, but there's a problem: you've never planned a trip entirely by yourself. One day, you decide to challenge yourself, visiting a completely new city without any help. Day 1. Excited but overwhelmed, you don't know where to eat, where to go, or how to get around. You check online reviews and pick a highly rated restaurant. But the food is terrible. Lesson learned: next time, read reviews more carefully. Day 2. You decide to take public transport instead of walking. At first, you get on the wrong bus and waste time. But through trial and error, you learn how to read the transit system properly. After a few mistakes, you start navigating the city more efficiently. Day 3, you've figured out the best restaurants, discovered hidden gems, and gained confidence in solo travel. What stands out here is, no one guides you step by step. You can only learn by trying, gaining experience, and trying again. Each time you make a mistake, you receive feedback from the environment: getting lost, eating bad food, and adjust your approach. Gradually, you learn to plan trips more effectively, choose the right destinations, and enjoy your journey better. This is exactly how reinforcement learning works. An agent starts with no prior knowledge, explores different actions, receives feedback from the environment, improves its strategy over time, and eventually optimizes its decisions.
In the previous video, we explored the world of reinforcement learning, a field where AI learns to make intelligent decisions on its own. But how does it know what actions to take? What enables it to learn from the environment? The answer lies in a fundamental model, MDP, Markov Decision Process, the backbone of all reinforcement learning algorithms. Let's break down its components one by one. The core components of an MDP: agent, the decision maker, the brain of the system; environment, the world in which the agent interacts; state, the information the agent perceives from the environment; action, the choices the agent can make to influence the state; reward, the feedback from the environment. Good actions receive high scores, while bad actions get penalized. Now, let's see how these components work together. The agent observes a state from the environment and selects an action to perform. This action affects the environment, causing a state transition. In response, the agent receives a new state and a reward, indicating the outcome of its action. This loop continues, allowing the agent to gradually learn the best way to act. Example 1. A robot navigating a maze. Imagine a robot lost in a maze. It starts at the entrance and must find its way out. The only way to succeed is through trial and error, learning from mistakes and gradually optimizing its actions. Agent, the robot; environment, the maze; state, The robot's current position. Actions. Move forward, move backward, turn left, turn right. When the robot takes an action, e.g., moving forward, it enters a new state and checks whether it has escaped. If it gets closer to the exit, it receives a positive reward. If it hits a dead end, it might receive a negative reward. Through repeated trials, the robot learns to navigate the maze efficiently. Here, the reward function is designed by us to teach the robot how to distinguish between good and bad states. The robot has no prior knowledge of the maze. It only relies on the reward signal to determine whether an action is beneficial or not. If an action moves the robot closer to the exit, we assign a high reward, encouraging it to continue in that direction. Conversely, if an action leads to a dead end, we assign a low or negative reward, discouraging it from repeating the mistake. Over time, the robot discovers the optimal strategy to escape the maze. Now, let's look at another classic reinforcement learning problem: cart pole. Imagine a pole balanced on a moving cart. The agent's goal is to prevent the pole from falling by controlling the cart's movement. Agent. The AI controlling the cart. Environment. The system consisting of the cart and pole. State. The cart's position, velocity, and the pole's angle. Actions. Move the cart left or right. Reward. Based on how long the pole remains balanced, the longer it stays upright, the higher the reward. The learning process is similar to the maze example. The agent observes the current state of the pole. It chooses an action. Move left or right. This action changes the state of the system. The agent receives a reward. If the pole remains balanced, it keeps earning points. If it falls, the reward decreases. One crucial aspect to note: the reward function is designed by us. The effectiveness of the learning process depends heavily on how well we define the reward. If the reward does not align with the desired goal, the agent may learn suboptimal behaviors. That's why reward design in reinforcement learning is an art. It requires careful tuning to ensure the agent learns the right objectives. We've explored the key components of reinforcement learning through two intuitive examples: the maze navigation and cart pole. The agent learns by interacting with the environment, receiving feedback, and optimizing its actions based on rewards. The key takeaway: rewards are not predefined, they are designed by us. A well-designed reward function is crucial for effective learning. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into cumulative rewards, policies, and value functions. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss it. See you soon. In the previous video, we explored the Markov Decision Process (MDP), where an agent learns through trial and reward. But if the agent relies only on immediate rewards, can it truly learn the optimal actions? The problem is that an action may not provide an immediate reward, but in the long run, it can lead to better outcomes. So how does the agent balance short-term and long-term rewards? The answer lies in three key concepts: return, policy, and value function. These form the foundation for making smarter and more effective decisions. Before we jump into the video, if you're here to level up your understanding of reinforcement learning, give this video a like and subscribe to stay tuned. First, let's analyze total reward, also known as return. Simply put, return is like the final score of a game. While playing, each score you earn is a small reward. The return is the total score you accumulate from start to finish. If you play well, the return is high. If you don't, the return is low. For example, if you're playing a coin collecting game and each coin gives you 10 points, collecting 15 coins means your total return is 150 points. In reinforcement learning, return GT is defined as the total accumulated rewards from time step T onward, where GT, return at time step T. This represents the total accumulated reward from time step T onward until the end of the episode. RT plus 1, RT plus 2, RT plus 3, these represent the rewards received at each future time step following T. In many reinforcement learning problems, a discount factor gamma is between 0 and 1, inclusive is used to prioritize earlier rewards over later ones. The general formula with discounting is: if gamma equals 1, all rewards are valued equally, and there is no discounting. If gamma is less than 1, earlier rewards are given more importance. For example, if gamma equals 0.9, then a reward of 10 received immediately is worth more than a reward of 10 received after 3 steps, because its effective value is reduced to 10 times 0.9 raised to the power of 3 equals 7.29. A high return is desirable, but how can we maximize it? We need a smart way to select actions to obtain the highest possible rewards. This is where policy pie comes in. A policy pie is like a strategy or guide that tells an agent what to do in a given situation. If you're playing a game, your strategy determines how you move, attack, or defend to win. A good policy helps maximize return GT. A real-life example. If you consistently complete assignments and review material before exams, you're following a good study policy to get high grades. In chess, a strong policy might be controlling the center of the board. In reinforcement learning, a policy pie A, S defines the probability of selecting action in state S. If you watched the previous video on the Markov Decision Process, you'll recall that when the agent perceives a state, it must decide on an action. The policy pie is what guides this decision-making process. To better understand, let's look at a common policy used in reinforcement learning: epsilon greedy policy. The epsilon greedy policy is a way to balance exploitation, choosing the best known action, and exploration, trying new actions. Most of the time, the agent selects the best action based on what it currently knows, but with a small probability epsilon, it tries a random action to explore. A real-world example. Imagine you're in a new city looking for a good restaurant. If you always go to the one you know is good, you're exploiting. If you try a new one, you're exploring. If you only exploit, you might miss out on better restaurants. If you only explore, you waste time trying bad ones. The epsilon greedy strategy ensures that the agent mostly exploits but sometimes explores, preventing it from getting stuck in a suboptimal policy. So how does the epsilon greedy policy work? Let's break it down simply. In the initialization phase, we assign the agent a fixed epsilon value, for example, epsilon equals 0.1. Each time an action is chosen, we generate a random number r in the range 0, 1. Then, we check. If r is less than epsilon, the agent will explore by selecting a random action. Otherwise, if r is greater than or equal to epsilon, the agent will exploit by choosing the best known action. For example, with epsilon equals 0.1, in each decision step, the agent will have a 90% probability of selecting the best action and a 10% probability of choosing randomly. Similarly, with epsilon equals 0.2, the agent will exploit 80% of the time and explore 20% of the time. Once we understand the epsilon greedy policy, we face an important question. How do we determine the best action? The answer lies in using a value function to evaluate whether each state or action is good or bad. So, what is a value function? The value function is a measure used to evaluate states in a reinforcement learning problem. As the agent learns from the environment, it needs to know which states are beneficial, which states to avoid, and which actions maximize the long-term reward. The value function helps the agent assess these factors. There are two main types of value functions: the state value function Vs and the action value function QSA. Vs indicates how good a state S is, based on the expected cumulative reward the agent can obtain if it follows policy pi from that state. The formula is displayed on the screen, but in this video, I will focus on explaining the concept in an intuitive way before diving into formulas in specific lessons. Let's analyze an example. Suppose you are playing a treasure hunt game in a forest. If you are in a position close to the treasure, you have a high chance of receiving a big reward, meaning that state has a high Vs value. Conversely, if you are in a trap zone, you might lose points, making that state have a low Vs value. In summary, Vs helps assess whether a state is advantageous. Now, what about the action value function QSA? QSA represents how good taking action in state S is, based on the expected cumulative reward if the agent performs that action. The formula is on the screen, and you can take notes if needed. Let's analyze a small example. Returning to the treasure hunt game, suppose you are at state S and have three choices. Move north, closer to the treasure; move south, towards a dangerous area; move west, into a deep forest. Each action will have a different value. Suppose QS north equals 50, QS south equals -10, and QS west equals 5. Depending on the policy, the agent will choose an action accordingly. The agent will pick the action with the highest QSA value to maximize rewards when exploiting, and choose randomly when exploring. To make it even clearer, Let's examine a familiar example: a robot navigating a maze. The robot starts at the entrance and needs to find the exit. The only way to succeed is through trial and error, learning from mistakes, and optimizing actions over time. In this problem, the agent is the robot. The environment is the maze. The state is the robot's current position. The actions include moving forward, backward, left, or right. If the maze is a 5x5 grid, the state value function can be represented as a 5x5 table, where each cell corresponds to a state determined by the robot's coordinates in the grid. For example, V00 represents the value of the state at 00, and V10 represents the value at 10, continuing up to V44. The function Vs indicates whether a state is beneficial. High Vs. Close to the exit, advantageous state. Low Vs. A dead end or far from the exit, undesirable state. Similarly, the action value function QSA in the maze is intuitive. Suppose the robot is at 1-1 and has 4 possible actions. Move up, the Q value is Q11 up. Move down, the Q value is Q11 down. Move right, the Q value is Q11 right. Move left, the Q value is Q11 left. If moving up brings the robot closer to the exit, then Q11 up will have a higher value compared to other actions. Under an exploitation strategy, the robot will select the action with the highest QSA value to find the exit as quickly as possible. However, if the robot always picks the highest QSA, it may get stuck in a suboptimal choice, also known as a local minimum. The epsilon greedy policy helps solve this problem by balancing exploitation, choosing the best action according to QSA, and exploration, randomly trying other actions to find better strategies. This is the relationship between the epsilon greedy policy and the action value function. By now, you should have a solid grasp of the core factors that guide an agent's decision-making in reinforcement learning. Let's summarize the key takeaways from today's video. The cumulative reward is the ultimate objective the agent aims to optimize. A policy is like a roadmap that helps the agent make decisions based on the value function. The value function acts as a knowledge base, helping the agent evaluate states or actions in specific scenarios. Understanding these concepts is a crucial step toward mastering more advanced reinforcement learning algorithms. In the upcoming videos, I will delve deeper into these algorithms. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated.